We're live on the Meincke Show podcast. We got a bunch of firsts here. It's the first time that I've had my mobile studio, and this is the first time there has ever on the MLS been a $1 listing. $1. That's right. You heard it. You may have seen it on CTV or Global. Any other news stations it was on?
City TV as well.
City TV as well. So brilliant idea from the homeowner to put it on for $1, and it went for national coverage. I drove all the way up from Okotoks, just south of Calgary, to be here in Edmonton today for the $1 show. We already got people that are jumping on board. So we have with us here the homeowner himself, Chris Cogswell. Chris, thanks for being on and letting me set up my studio here today. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming up from Okotoks to join us in Edmonton.
Yeah, you bet. And when I call him brother, it's we got a secret handshake and everything.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Conspiracy theories will abound now.
Absolutely.
That's right. So this was your idea, the realtor's idea?
You know what? This was something that I built off of from my realtor's idea. He suggested that he had a few successes listing houses, slightly below market value, and then, creating a bidding war and getting the price that they wanted. And I just said,
Chris Cogswell goes slightly below. Screw that. Let's go for it.
I said, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it properly.
Let's do it right.
That's right. So I called him up and I said, you know what, James? I said, let's do it for $1. And I said, I believe that, you and the Mogul Realty Group are really the people who are going to get this done for me, so let's make it happen.
Of course, if this was in Calgary, you would have chose me as your realtor.
Absolutely.
Like not even close.
No, not even close. I know you could have mailed this.
There you go. Instead of mailed it in. So did you have any, what due diligence did you do before you pulled the trigger on this? Because it seems to me there might be some legal liabilities there, some blowback. What did you do for due diligence?
Yeah, so we talked to a real estate lawyer for sure and just said, what are the implications of, listing or advertising a house for sale for $1? And, if somebody gives us $1 listing, are we obligated to sell to them at $1? And that was probably mine and my real estate agent's biggest concern.
Right.
More people showing up at the open house.
This is the first, I've done a hell of a lot of open houses since 2004 when I first got my license. This is the first time people were showing up a half hour early and lined up. And I had to shoo a couple people out so I could park the darn car and get all my gear in here because everybody was stopping and looking,
Absolutely.
It's like, does Marlon Brando live there? No, he's dead. Well, who's the famous person? Who's in there?
Yeah, that's right. It's just Chris Cogswell and his family.
Just Chris Cogswell. No, the Chris Cogswell. So you felt secure from what the lawyer had to say that there wasn't going to be any blowback. Were you still nervous at all? You're like, oh, God.
Do you know what? I think in my family, my wife is the one that is nervous about things, and I'm the one that's excited about things. So, it leads to a good balance in the relationship. So, I will say it has been a lot of effort leading up to this. We did put more work than we would have normally just because of the way that we were going to market it. And I think we ended up with an amazing product that, so far the feedback has been great. And we had 7 showings yesterday alone. 7
showings in a day?
In a day. Yeah.
Any offers yet?
Yes, there have been a bunch of offers that have come
for like $1.50, $1.75.
There's been some of those, and there's been some that have been a little bit higher.
What are you going to counter? No, don't tell me. You can't tell me that.
That's right.
What are you going to counter offer at?
You know what? At $1.50, I don't even know if there's a serious counter offer.
$1.52.
Yeah,
I'll meet you in the middle.
But I want a possession date of 2045.
Yeah. In installments.
Yeah, so I'll just rent out the place and then make my money off the cash flow over the next 20 years, and then they can have the house for the $1.50 that they paid.
Was that an option for you? Could you just hung on to it, rented it out, and bought the next place?
No, I think we really needed to sell this house before we could pick up a mortgage for another place.
That's the case for most people.
Yeah, so in this market, we just wanted to do something really creative to stand out and generate some interest in the property.
Well, creative you did.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Yes. Well, I think we just got the stats from a realtor the other day, and since it's been live on Wednesday, we've averaged about 30 viewings per day on the MLS.
Is that right?
Which is, I feel, is excellent. I don't have anything to compare it to, but I'm happy with those numbers for sure.
Is any disappointed buyers going, oh, it's not actually $1?
You know what? Yes, there have been a few. And I think, you know, and there are some issues that we have.
How do you even respond to that? Like, because you're kind of compassionate. It's like, oh, you poor silly person. But so there's that compassion, but it's also like, really?
Yeah.
You know, really?
So the idea behind listing it for $1 was that in Edmonton, we've got more inventory than have ever been on the market.
Yeah.
So
is this a record?
I believe what I've read and what my realtors have said is that, you know, everybody's saying it's the most we've seen in 10 years.
Yeah.
But 10 years is as long as they've been tracking it.
Yeah.
So we don't know what it's been before that. And you know, if it doesn't take long to take a look at houses that are currently on the market and see how many price reductions people are going through before they kind of find what the accurate market value for their home is.
Right.
So by listing it for $1, I was hoping that the market would tell us what they feel the value for the house would be.
Yeah, and of course, I've been hearing them. So what do you think would actually sell for in the evasive realtor, talking like a politician, because that's what you got to do is, well, you know, let's just see what rolls in and see what happens.
Well, the nice thing is my neighbor's property is for sale, so I just kind of deflect that question saying, if you're having trouble pricing it, my neighbor's house is for sale. You know, I'd use that plus maybe one or two others in the neighborhood for a comparable. Yeah. But we really want to hear what you have to say. And I know when I talked to 4 or 5 realtors before I settled with, you know, James and the Mobile Realty Group, you know, there was always a plus or minus of, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 on what people felt that list price should be. Yeah. And I feel like the low end is, you know, a sell it tomorrow price. And I feel that the high end is, you know, I'm looking for that, you know, 1 or 2 buyers that really falls in love with it and are willing to pay that. So
yeah, you definitely got to be careful in this market. For anybody that's
Absolutely.
Watching that doesn't know, I'm a realtor down in Okotoks. And I did pull off a miracle. A recent one was in High River. And I mean, it's as slow in High River as it is in Edmonton. It's slow because there's just a buttload of inventory.
Yeah.
But the house was a unicorn house. Like it was a true unicorn, right? So because of that, we asked top dollar.
Yep.
And because of that, we were lucky enough within 20 minutes of it hitting the market, the first people rolled through and they wrote an offer. And,
Wow.
And before that offer died, another offer came in. So it was multiples. We got full list price.
Wow.
Does not happen. Right.
Right.
But that wasn't, I wish I could take credit for it.
Yeah.
You know, I was only a part of it, part of the marketing. The realtor can only do so much, but I had a lot to work with there. Like there was a lot of clay to work with. So because it was a true unicorn house, we got top dollar in like no time flat, just done deal, full list price, 100% of list price.
Right.
Right. Wow. But it was a unicorn. So what you guys have done here is you've created the unicorn. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, not like there are some unique things here. It's a gorgeous house.
Yep.
The back deck, the yard is gorgeous. You did some really good work there.
Thank you.
You know, like it looks clean and crisp. It's kind of a realtor's dream, like that. You get people don't realize it's a team effort.
Yeah, it really is.
I did an article just the other day with pictures of an actual listing that's on the market right now.
Yeah.
And in the picture are like bags of laundry and garbage, and it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, I know it would have been a hassle to move that before you take the picture, but come on, man.
Right.
Like you can't do it.
Well, I mean, speaking of making your house look good, I think, you know, the renovations that I've done and my wife has helped me with have really, you know, set the house apart. But I think what really added that whipped cream and cherry on top was the staging.
Yeah.
You know, we had our house professionally staged, and, you know, I came home and just went, wow, maybe we want to stay. And when my wife came home, she said, hey, can we buy all of this stuff from the stager, you know, and just have them give it to us at the end of the day? And she loved it. And I think the people who come through really, you know, as they walk in, you know, their comments are just, you know, wow.
Now, what was the thought process to do the extra investment? I mean, okay, the cool marketing shtick with the $1 house, very cool. Mm-hmm. It's obviously got some results, but to spend the money on the staging, because this is a tough one. You know, I have trouble getting people to say yes, I'll stay.
Right.
But what is it about the mind of Chris? Like, what was your thought process to say yes to staging?
Well, I knew when we listed our house for $1, we were going to get a lot of traffic, and I knew I needed that wow factor. And that was really, a cornerstone of our marketing plan. So I knew that's where money really needed to be spent. And I feel like listing your house, you need to, step back from the emotional things that hold you back, and you really need to look at it like a business transaction.
It sounds like you read the Home Seller's Bible for owners, agents, and investors. Available soon at Amazon.com and Amazon.ca.
But absolutely. No, it's true. You really need to take that emotional part out of it, because I think, we've raised 2 kids here. My wife and I moved in together, got married while we were living in this house. So there's a lot of memories here.
It's not easy to detach yourself.
Right. Yeah.
It's not. But the more you can look at it like a business transaction, and I know you've had businesses in the past and whatnot, you're an entrepreneurial mind. And the only people I've successfully got to stage their house and spend the money are business owners.
Okay.
They understand ROI, return on investment. They get it.
Yep.
It's like, oh, but that's an expense. There's a difference between an expense and investment.
Right.
Then there's people that buy $100,000 cars. They think it's an investment. No, that's an expense.
That's right.
It's if you put $1 in, you're not going to get $1 and more out. But hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
You're next, by the way.
Oh, there we go.
There were some stats that I read that, staged homes sell for up to 30% higher.
Oh, okay.
And so, even if it sold for 10% higher, that would be, let's say an extra $30,000 or $40,000.
Where was that stat from? This 30% sounds little high.
Maybe it was 10. I believe it was off my Stagers.
But it was higher.
It was probably off my Stagers website who wanted me who wanted me to do business with
so
them.
Much for truth in advertising. Those damn stagers are as bad as realtors.
Do you know what? When I looked into 4 or 5 different staging companies, and I think it's really important to look at their portfolios. And really pick one that you feel can do the best job for the type of house you're looking to sell.
Well, give them a plug, Chris. Who'd you go with? Can't remember the
Simply Irresistible Interiors.
There you go. Simply Irresistible Interiors. To get your home staged. No, they're not paying me for that.
Stageandsell.ca. And the person who staged our home was Lilium. And she comes with her mom, and I believe her mom is the secret sauce in the staging recipe.
Yeah.
Her mom doesn't speak any English, but walks around saying thank you when you tell her everything looks so pretty.
Nice.
They did a phenomenal job, and I think to me what really set them apart is that the home looks staged, but a staged that people live in. There's too many times I look on Realtor.ca.
Staged but realistic.
People have hired bad stagers,
and
it just looks empty. And if you think, one trophy in the corner or a little pot is going to do it, we probably have 40 pieces that they've added to
40
the house.
pieces.
And like all the little knickknacks. I mean, this behind us, the sign is covering a lot of it.
Sorry, stager.
Yeah.
I'm wrecking your shtick with my giant sign.
But the other thing is, I think it's really important that when you have somebody like a stager come through and give you advice, that you take that advice and you follow it.
Yeah. Otherwise, they call you an asshole. Somebody that asks but doesn't do it. That's an asshole.
So our stager, when she left after staging, she said, "Chris, you were one of my only clients who has done everything that we've given them on the list to do."
Yeah.
And that included renovating my kitchen and replacing countertops, painting basement floors, replacing carpets.
That's partly your safety background, right? Because details matter.
Absolutely.
Because without the details, bad stuff happens.
That's exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a formula, and when I was a sales trainer for years, people go, yeah, well, I did this part and this part of the system.
Yes.
Well, it's if you did that trying to bake a cake,
yep.
And I said, well, I got flour and I got sugar.
Right.
Well, that's not going to make a cake. Right. They got to be all of the ingredients in the right order.
That's right.
At the right temperature for the right amount of time. Like it's a formula, and they're not interchangeable.
Yep.
The formula, and it sounds like that is something that you have a very firm grasp on, and as a result, here we are, and the place is loaded. There's people coming and going and coming and going. We're broadcasting in a cool little nook of the house, that. What did you use this for? Is this the playroom?
This is my kids' play area. Yeah,
The kids' play area?
The whole room's kind of a playroom, rec room, family room.
Yeah. Oh no, it's ideal because it's like, how much room do you need? You
Right.
don't need a lot for a play area.
Yeah.
So it's ideal. It's perfect. What's been the biggest challenge so far in getting your house on the market? Is there anything that's been like the biggest hurdle to get over?
The day I started interviewing realtors,
Okay.
and they told me what my house was worth.
Yeah.
I'm glad there was an hour or two separation. I had 4 meetings set up that day, and I was happy there was some time. Sorry, the first meeting happened the night before, and
Yeah.
I'm happy I had a night because I felt sick after
After
hearing what
the hard truth.
right, because I
Yeah.
know what I was going to list it for, and then you hear the hard truth.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to list it for was a market that was here a year ago,
Yeah.
right? So
Damn, forgot my time machine.
yeah, so that's been the hardest part,
Tough
honestly.
Tough pill to swallow.
And then, do you know what? And I've heard it from a few different friends before, and I think people don't talk about it enough. Real estate sales process. It's just the stress that it puts on a married couple.
Oh yeah.
We've got 2 young kids, 4.5 and 1.5, and my wife Amber has really taken on that role of primary caregiver.
Mhm.
Not necessarily because I'm not capable of doing it. It was something that roles that we fell into. But now that we're at what I would like to call that, hopefully the last sprint to the finish line.
Yeah.
We're able to take a step back, and that stress starts coming to the surface. And I think if you're a couple trying to sell a house, you really need to work together and have that good communication so that the relationship survives the sale.
There's something about because your home is supposed to be the place that you come and relax. When it's something
Absolutely.
other than the place that you come and relax,
Yeah.
when it's something other than your refuge,
Yeah.
divorces happen, man.
Yep.
A lot. First time with my first marriage, we were separated over it, and then
Mhm.
got back together after for a few years. But we were having a house built.
Right.
So you hear about it all the time. If somebody's doing major renovations in the house,
Yep.
if they're having a house built, any big change like that is where the house is the center of that change.
Yep.
Yeah, divorce.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if you're thinking of a major reno,
Yeah.
and you want to keep your spouse, make sure you're solid.
Absolutely.
Make sure you're solid, or you have a fifth wheel in the backyard that you can
Yeah.
live in for the summer.
I couldn't have done this without my wife. Not only did we have 15 weeks of renovation, but we had some personal health issues that we were dealing with at the same
geez.
time.
Yeah.
So, it was a real test for our relationship. And without her, I don't think this would have been possible.
There you go. Hey, you hear that? That's a smart guy. Making, if I'm going to plug the interior decorator, I better give a
I better
plug
plug
to
my wife.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
that didn't come out right. Well, if you're not going to do it, that's your job. So that is your job. Oh my God! Can we just pick a different topic?
Yeah,
Let's
absolutely.
talk about the weather. How about that?
Yeah, we've got a beautiful snowy day on the open house. So
You're asking your realtor earlier. It's like, so open house traffic and bad weather. How does that go?
that's
hand in hand?
right.
I'm here to tell you, man. This is an open house killer.
It's true.
It's a wet blanket and a half for the open house, and yet the place is packed anyway.
It's what James said was that we'll see the serious buyers and
Yeah.
the tire kickers probably will not show up. So we
Yeah.
may have less traffic,
But more quality.
more quality.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
quality.
And
Well,
we've got Nutella hot chocolate
Oh,
with marshmallows.
where the hell's mine,
Yeah, it's still warming up. I'll
Dude.
bring you a cup.
dude?
Where's mine?
Don't leave me hanging.
Where's mine?
You're the host.
I haven't even had some yet. No, my realtor's the host.
So picking a realtor, did you see a difference? Because there's sort of a feeling out there like it doesn't really matter who you get.
Mhm.
They all just stick you on the MLS and that's the end of it. So did you have anything that you were really looking for, or any surprises while you're going through?
Yeah, and so there was definitely different levels of preparedness.
Mhm.
So, when you go and list your house, the realtor will show up and do what's called a listing presentation.
Yeah.
And they essentially sell themselves to you, both in
Mhm.
here are my statistics, here's what I'm going to do for you as far as value add services.
Mhm.
And here is what I feel your property is worth based on the methodology I used to price it.
That's supposed to be better than the next guy's.
Well, and that right. And
Yeah.
so really what I felt it was most important to do is really pay attention to that methodology and how the realtors were actually going through and pricing the market. So, I definitely sat with one who, took comparables and history from 12 months in this market and came up with a high price, something similar to what I had originally had in mind. But, I knew we were in a different market today than we were 12 months ago.
So did you want to see that there was more of a science to it than throwing a dart?
Well, I wanted to make sure that somebody came and was able to give me a valuation based on the market that we're currently in. And 12 months of history puts us in a very different market than we were in today. And I felt like that skews the numbers a little bit. And some realtors came in and didn't even have a valuation ready. They wanted to know what I wanted to price the house for, and then they said they'd give me my valuation at a later date. And so, to me, I didn't feel it was professional to show up and not have done some research on the property prior to that listing presentation.
Yeah, it's actually a taught tactic.
Yeah.
So there's different tactics that are taught from different people with different, and I wonder how I would have done. I think I would have bombed it because I got a completely other thing. So you tell me how I would have done. Well, when I come in, and other than saying, hey, thanks for having me here today, how about the nickel tour? We get the nickel tour of the house, and then I still have all the information that I want you to see, right? And we'll go through it to sort of give you a feel through my eyes, what makes a good comparable and a bad comparable. And we'll explain that, right? And I'll show you the winner's circle, which is the solds, and I separate them in different stacks. So here's the winner's circle. Here's the people that were successful.
Yeah.
And here's the loser's circle. Do you see a difference?
Right.
Well, yeah, these prices are, and I'll also explain like stuff that's in the book. Like it's all really in there technically, but I will also warn you against some of the tricks. Right. And I will say things like, careful about the person who wants to buy the listing. And you say, what do you mean by the listing? And buy the listing is, let's blow sunshine and unicorns up your backside.
Right.
Pump you full of smoke. Chris, I'm telling you, these other guys have no idea what they're talking about. Your house is worth $40,000 more than anybody. They just want a quick sale. Don't trust those buggers. Right? People do that. I know some high producers that do that regularly. They're known because we know. Because we know the reputations of other guys, but the consumer doesn't know. Right? So I always try to pop their balloon before they even have a chance, and I explain this tactic. But unfortunately, people go for it anyway, even after I explained it.
Right.
Because they get rosy glasses, and then they go with the high price after they were told, and then they call me after they've been on the market for 6 months because you told me so.
Right.
I'm like, hey, I didn't say it.
But
so if I would have done that presentation to you, would I have even been in the running without a whole kind of math and formulas and everything else?
No, that was very similar to some of the listing presentation. That was very similar to, I would say, the two or three that I had. Well, the top two. So you would have been not James in the mogul group. You would have been the other guy that I was considering.
So how did James in the mogul group put it over the top? Like, what was the magic there?
So before I get there, because I think there's a flip side to what you said. I think the flip side is that consumers need to be aware that there are realtors out there that show rock bottom prices in an attempt to pad their stats on, we only have an average of 12 days on market. Everybody else is 50. You want to be with us. And so be aware of realtors that have very short days on market.
It goes both ways.
I feel like, my personal approach to the listing presentation was, I'm not going to tell you what I think my house is worth. I'm not going to tell you the numbers that I have in my head. Very much like buying a car. We're not going to talk biweekly payments. We're going to talk price. You tell me what you think it should be, and I'm going to choose based on my experiences. So, James and the mogul group had a very different listing presentation than any I had ever seen before. So James came in and said, listen, everything that's on the market right now, we can assume is okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to invite you in my back office and we're going to look through that. So he just fired up Paragon in my living room and geo-fenced, a couple of neighborhoods around my house and said, well, let's look at comparable listings. And we'll start at the bottom. And we'll just get more expensive, and you tell me to stop when you feel like we've hit a range where your house should be in.
So he did it right in front of you.
Yeah. So we just went through, and he said, "Well, what do you think about that? What do you think about that?" And I'm like, "Nah, my house is better than that." And we move on to the next. And as we got a little closer, he'd say, okay, well, you have them on the kitchen, you have them on the bathroom, but man, the master bedroom's a little bit bigger, and they've got a 3-piece ensuite instead of 2. So you got them 2 out of 3.
So you'd really understand the decision-making process bit for bit because it was happening live.
And I was forced to look at all of the pictures with him, and it was my responsibility to say, stop, right? Kind of like Price is Right when a little mountain climber, you got to say stop before he falls over the edge.
Yeah.
And so to me, I felt, that was a really accurate way of showing where my house would be. And I definitely felt James was, a no BS kind of realtor.
Right.
He was definitely the lowest.
Yeah.
So the lowest isn't necessarily the worst.
Yeah.
What I loved about James is he was the one who came up with the idea, well, let's try something a little different. Let's list below and see if we can create a bidding war. But he was very clear that, to really do this right and to be successful, because there's a few $1,000s worth of work that needs to go into your property. And he said, if you want to list it, and he said his bottom price was a number. And he said, if it needs to go any higher, the only way I'm going to take the listing higher than that is if it shows immaculately. And I think that, because I questioned him on it, and he offered no value add services other than photography, which was a little bit different, because everybody wants to give you, like, we'll do a move out clean, or I'm going to give you moving boxes, or, I'll give you a staging consultation, or I'll pressure wash the windows on the outside of your house. None of that. Only pictures. So I got pictures and I got the 3D tour, and that was it. And so I called James up and I said, listen, you're giving me nothing. Everybody else is giving me stuff. And he said, Chris, we're in a market where things aren't moving. He goes, I have 30 listings, and if I put $2,500 a listing into each piece of property, I'd be, $66,000 in sunk costs. And if only, 10 or 15 of those properties move, I haven't made any money. So, in a down market, I needed to make a business decision. He said, at the end of the day, I've got, a dedicated marketing person on my team. I've got a team of 4 or 5 realtors, and, I'm able to pull off this style of listing that you want. I think, we're the person who's going to get that done for you, and we're going to get it done right. And so far, they've lived up to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people think all we do is stick the sign on the lawn. It's like, actually,
no.
When you factor it in, we sink on our own risk.
Yeah.
Depends on the listing, but easily up to $2,000 per listing on our butt that we may or may not get back, depending on how we do the deal.
So, to me, it was that eye-opener going, oh, right, realtors are also running a business and they need to make business decisions. So, sometimes it is lipstick on a pig, right? Yeah. And, what I want is the pig. Yeah. I don't necessarily care about the lipstick or the hoof polish, right? Yeah. So, you just got to remember what you're in the market for is the realtor, the personality, and the way that they're going to sell your house. Pressure washing a window, I rented a pressure washer for $50 and got it done myself in half an hour.
Now, you had a little surprise when you got all the national coverage, coast to coast to coast.
Yeah.
People in Nunavut were going, $1 house. But you had done your due diligence ahead of time. Yep. The board said, yep. At least, who were you talking to at the board that said, oh, actually, maybe not use the name.
From what I've been led to believe, that we've, they were some let's say some informal conversations just over the phone saying, hey, here's what we want to do, to the realty board. And they said, yeah, no, that sounds great. But on Wednesday, when the listing went live, within an hour, it was flagged by Paragon. And we were contacted by the Edmonton Real Estate Board in consultation with the Canadian Real Estate Association, who said, we will not allow you to list your property for, at the time it was listed for $1,000, because that's the lowest price the MLS will actually accept. Okay. However, we had them looking into changing their back-end system to allow a $1 listing.
Right.
So it was flagged, and they said the lowest we'll let you list your house for is half of the perceived market value. And, their reasoning behind it, is very subjective. They have been unable to point to me, and I've been in contact with both, the president of the real estate board and the chair of the real estate board on the executive committee, as well as the competition lawyer at the Canadian Real Estate Association.
How was the attitude? Were they empathetic towards you, or were they more annoyed that you're doing something outside the box?
You know what? No, I think in all fairness to the Edmonton Real Estate Board, I think, the president for sure was, he said, I understand what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah.
Their concern was, the integrity of the market data. The frustrating thing for me as a consumer and ultimately the end user of the MLS is that they had no specific policy or guideline in place that they were able to point to that says, this is the minimum listing of a property.
So the decision at the end was actually arbitrary.
Incredibly arbitrary.
Okay. There wasn't an actual rule that you were in violation of. They just didn't want to.
Right. So, so far, the best explanation I've got has been from the lawyer at the Canadian Real Estate Association, who says the Canadian competition legislation is there to protect consumers against misleading sales tactics and misleading sales prices.
That's true.
So, however, I truly believe that, priced at $1, I do not believe that anybody in their right mind thinks they're going to buy the house for $1.
Yeah.
However, when you price it for $200,000, we've received many phone calls from people who believe and are hopeful that they get the property for the current price that it's listed at, which is $200,000.
Feels a lot more like bait and switch when you do that.
Absolutely. And it actually made my wife uncomfortable. She wanted to pull the pin on the whole strategy. Because like at the end of the day, we're good people and we don't want to get anybody's hopes up who thinks they've found a home for them or their family at a price that they can afford that was way better than they thought they could have ever had. I would much rather, have something that's just so absurd that nobody believes it's real and wants to come and ask why. And unfortunately, he didn't really believe that. And, the nice thing about legislation is interpreted by lawyers and ruled on by judges. So,
right.
I have sought outside counsel and I'm just waiting for some phone calls from some other competition lawyers to see, what the end results to, if they think there's a case there or if it's worth arguing.
Well, you'd think there would be a workaround, like just say your first line in public comments could have simply been disclaimer. This is a auction with a reserve, because that's essentially what it is.
He had said,
something along those lines is the first line you put in the disclaimer.
Right.
Like, offers for $1 will not be accepted.
Right. We were pretty clear on that in the media, and in our press releases. I mean, we can't really control what the media reports and how they use our sound bites.
Have they been honest with you?
For the most part, I mean, they all twist their story with, not in a negative way, but they all have their narrative that they would like the story to read. That's
kind of why we came up here today.
Yeah.
To make sure that there any twist or any spin or any misunderstanding is looked after in a long form conversation.
Right. So I think the media has done a really good job in reporting essentially what we're doing. I think the confusion just went, I'm having a hard time selling the place, which isn't true. I'm trying a unique marketing tactic to get attention to a house in a slow market. So small differences, but we're so appreciative that CTV and City TV came down, and we're so happy that iNews 880, which is an arm of Global, gave us the radio play, and also they did a print article as well.
Well, I was blown away because I watched a couple of the TV commercials that you shared on Facebook, and I went, oh my God, they even advertised the open house. Yeah. This is like the single most advertised open house in the history of the world.
I agree. Which is happening right now between 1 to 4 at 3224 131 Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta.
What was that address again, Chris?
3224 131 Avenue, Edmonton, Alberta.
Edmonton, Alberta. Stick it in your Google Maps. And if you are coming out to the open house, make sure that you book in an extra 10 minutes because there's a pile of road construction. Drive careful. And if you have any in particular comments that you'd like to have, just throw them in the comment column here. And this is part one of the live broadcast. I'm not going to keep it rolling for the whole darn thing because there's no point. But stay tuned. In about 20 minutes, we're going to have one of the realtors sitting down with us, and we'll get into their brain and see if they can just talk to me without sounding like a politician.
That's right.
Like, no sales pitches on the Meincke Show podcast. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. This is a unique show, a unique situation, never been done before. And there's probably never been a live feed podcast broadcast at an open house either. But thanks for tuning in. Please go to YouTube and click subscribe on my channel. It's the Meincke Show podcast channel. I need your help. As many subscribers as I can get. Pretty please. Cream and sugar. This podcast, this episode will be shown on probably by the end of the day. I'll rip it off of Facebook and shove it onto YouTube. But please go to my YouTube channel, The Meincke Show Podcast, and click subscribe. I appreciate it very much. Thanks very much, and see you again in about 20 minutes.